take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow your eyelids to close. That's it. As you breathe in, just imagine a bright, vibrant color of resourcefulness. Perhaps yellow, orange, pink or purple. And as you breathe in that bright, vibrant color of resourcefulness, just get a feeling that you're feeling more resourceful and it's melting away any tension, any anxiety, any stress. And that as you exhale, you're able to release that tension, that anxiety, that stress in your outward breath, enabling you to feel deeper and deeper relaxed. I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine a beautiful lake. Maybe it's a lake you've been to, or maybe a lake that you've seen, maybe on the internet, on a poster. And I want you to imagine you're by the side of the lake on a sunny day, feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin. Breathing in a feeling of resourceful relaxation, and as you exhale, just allowing any feelings of tension or stress to leave your body. And I want you to imagine there is the most comfortable chair possible by the side of that lake. As you breathe in and breathe out, just imagine placing your body on that comfortable chair, looking out at the lake, seeing the calmness on the surface of the lake, enabling you to feel deeper and deeper relaxed. And I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, and I want you to imagine feeling so deeply relaxed that you're able to imagine falling asleep there in that chair by the side of that lake. 5, feeling any tension in your eyelids, forehead just releasing, melting away, leaving your body. 4, relaxation spreading now into your jaw, neck and shoulders. That's it, releasing that tension. 3, arms and legs feeling limp, loose, heavy, sinking down into that chair by the lake. 2, just imagine your internal organs, lungs, stomach, gut, all releasing any tension, anxiety melting away. Feeling a desire to drift off into a sleep within your imagination. And then 1, just feeling like that relaxation spreading all over from your head to your toe, all the way down, drifting off into a sleep. And I want you to imagine in this sleep, you're able to dream. And I want you to imagine that you are dreaming, that you are having a conversation with someone that you consider self-centered, perhaps selfish, mainly thinking about how they talk. I want you to imagine that you're listening to them. And I want you to imagine that you've got something really important that you want to share. Maybe something that happened, maybe some advice that you need. And I want you to feel perhaps a feeling of frustration. That as this person that is talking about them, fixated on their words, and maybe you're giving cues and signals that there's something you'd like to say, but the cues are ignored, and they continue to just deliver what they want to say. Maybe they ask you a question, but very soon after you answer, they take control of the conversation again, and I want you to feel how you would feel if you felt unheard not listened to, unimportant. Maybe there's a part of you that it doesn't matter what you say because they're going to say the same thing anyway. And I want you to feel that sense of frustration, maybe even sadness, or maybe just a pragmatic realization that the person that you're listening to right now doesn't care, and that maybe you need to find someone else that does. I want you to imagine now that this person disappears and is now replaced with someone that is very similar to you. And I want you to imagine they're communicating to you through voice notes. I want you to imagine holding a phone in your hand and just seeing not 1 or 2 voice notes, but 10 or 15 or 20. And imagine thinking that you could listen to these voice notes, but even if you have something valuable to advise or share, that nothing would happen with that information anyway. I want you to tap into a feeling that perhaps that you're being used, that the purpose of you getting the voice notes is just to enable the other person to get stuff out of their head. That it doesn't matter if you listen or not listen. It doesn't matter if you give advice or don't give advice. Nothing changes anyway, and I want you to feel that sense of perhaps sadness, perhaps frustration, perhaps a feeling of what's the point? And if you can tap into that feeling, a feeling that it doesn't feel good to be on the receiving end, where communication is coming from a place, consciously or unconsciously, of selfish communication. And if you can feel that, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to imagine now that you're on the receiving end of someone that really wants to listen. Maybe it's face to face. Maybe it's over a phone. Maybe even a video call. But that same information that you have, that you want to share, they actively want to hear it. I want you to get a sense that even if you try to keep that information to yourself, sooner or later, because you feel safe, because you feel listened to, because you feel heard, there is a desire to share that information. And when you share that information, you really feel the other person cares and they listen. And they want to understand what you're going through. And I want you to tap into how good it feels to be listened to, how good it feels to be heard. I want you to identify and grow that feeling. And just make a decision that you want more people to feel that way when they talk to you. You want them to feel listened to. You want them to feel heard. You want them to feel safe, that they can share the problems, the troubles. That you don't have to give advice. But if you do have some advice, you will always have a desire to ask if they want it. Maybe you'd say something like, I think I have an idea that might help. Would you be interested? Inviting them to request the advice changes what they would do with that advice. When you give advice too liberally, quite often it gets disregarded. And I want you to tap into a feeling of you're going to help other people feel safe, feel relaxed, feel listened to. And I want you to imagine you're in your home, making a unique cup of tea, maybe a variety that you don't normally drink, but this tea will be a symbol, the ritual of boiling the kettle, putting the tea bag perhaps in a cup or a pot. The aroma, the taste, will from this point onwards trigger a feeling of consideration and empathy. And I want you to imagine now you're preparing that tea before you have a conversation, opening your mind to new ideas of thinking about communication. I want you to imagine that as you smell that tea, perhaps taste that tea, you effortlessly embrace the power of active listening, engaging with the person in front of you, and genuinely seeking to understand the perspective and their needs. I want you to imagine that you effortlessly tune in to the subtle body language, expressions, tonality of their voice, allowing yourself to pick up on their unspoken emotions and needs. Imagine the tea is unlocking a superpower where you notice things that you didn't notice before, unlocking a heightened sense of understanding those tiny, subtle forms of nonverbal communication. And it all starts with the intention, just deciding that you want to understand this person. You want to hear what they have to say. You want to understand what they're going through. And it doesn't have to be problems. Maybe they want to share a wonderful experience. And allow yourself to feel like you're switching on something that was switched off in your ears, enabling them to pay more attention than they used to. You can hear emotions in the voice, notice them, and feel that your energy is being influenced by the energy of the person you're talking to. I want you to tap into the idea of the importance of respect. That you foster an environment of both respect and acceptance. Honoring that this person isn't you. They have a different background, different experiences, different things that they value and different things that they believe, and they don't have to do what you would do, but you can listen from their unique perspective. I want you to get a sense that part of the intention while you're drinking that tea is not just to listen, but to understand their perspective. If they're telling you a story, imagine that you're watching that story like it's a movie. If they're explaining a problem, imagine how you would feel if you were faced with a similar problem. I want you to get a sense that you feel that the intention is fusing with the smell and taste of the tea, and the tea is fusing with this positive intention to respect and listen and be considerate. I want you to imagine that you're effortlessly trusting in your own instincts, insights, knowing that your thoughts and perspectives have great value. That when requested, or if you pick up on a clue or a cue, that they would welcome your input. You're confident to speak your truth with confidence, but also effortlessly considering the feeling of them, the impact of your words. Maybe that's to change how they feel. Maybe you can create certainty where there was doubt, confidence, or there was a feeling of low mood. I want you to imagine that you embrace the power of silence. Maybe something you haven't been used to. But allowing moments of quiet reflection deepens your connection with others. Sometimes you get a sense when you're talking to someone that they're just waiting for you to stop talking so they can start talking. But if you listen, hold that silence, really think about their words, it deepens the connection with the other person. They feel valued, heard, listened to. And any advice or information that follows comes across as being deeply considered, thoughtful, personal. I want you to imagine that this tea is enabling you to develop a habit of asking open-ended questions, encouraging others to share their thoughts and feelings more deeply. You effortlessly listen actively and attentively, honoring their words and validating their experiences. But I also want you to imagine you are unlocking the art of compromise, seeking mutually beneficial solutions that honor the needs and perspectives of all involved. You effortlessly strive for win-win outcomes where everyone feels heard and respected. And I want you to imagine you've just finished your tea and you're deciding to communicate with someone that perhaps you've lost contact with. Maybe they used to be a valuable friendship or a good connection, but somehow you feel like it's waned. But I want you to imagine that you're reaching out, thinking of their needs. Maybe you start with an open-ended question. Maybe you let them know that you miss their chats or their conversations. I want you to imagine that you are rekindling a connection of communication. And the purpose of this is to practice empathy. Any skill needs to be practiced. And I want you to imagine all of these relationships, friendships, connections. They're not all dead. I want you to imagine a plant that is unwatered, hidden from sunlight. It can look like the plant is dead, but sometimes just a few drops of water, putting it near sunlight, and before you know it, the plant looks as good as it ever did. And I'm wondering what relationships you can bring back to life by feeding those relationships with empathy, consideration, respect, and active listening. You have nothing to lose, because if the relationships are dead, they're already dead. But if they could be brought back to life, then it means that you are honing in on a skill that is useful for those relationships, but also any future communication. Over the next few days and weeks, you will set this intention each time you make a cup of tea. Specific variety, specific smell and taste. But don't be surprised if in a few weeks or months, the tea isn't even required. Because it's very difficult when you get good at active listening, considerate communication, and cultivating that sense of empathy, to go back to doing it any other way. I want you to breathe in and breathe out. Just imagine getting up out of the chair, seeing your lake in front of you, but feeling like something has changed, that you have unlocked a desire to be more considerate, to think about the needs of other people, to be the best listener you've ever been, and to be willing to share information, share advice, share your thoughts, if you feel it's going to be useful, desired and appreciated. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Feel like you're returning to the present, but taking all those wonderful strategies and ideas, knowing that all it will take is a positive intention and a cup of tea to unlock empathy within you from this point forwards. As I start to count from 1 to 10, you will awaken feeling resourceful, optimistic, that a new chapter has started, a chapter of empathy and consideration. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.